everyone, and welcome to Connections for Life. I'm Ted Pete.
I'm Chad Kubo, trying to think of how to do a Viking accent. I don't have anything. Yeah, that's how it went. I was going to say, how do you do a Viking?
You're Viking Joseph.
Not like that.
How's this?
I feel like I know somebody that looks like that. I'm Joseph.
It was me.
Yeah.
Chad put it up. I said there's nothing different.
He goes, what'd you do? Did you change the filter?
Yeah. So, how was your guys' Memorial Weekend?
Is guys is a word?
Hey guys.
Guys.
Mine was fine. Soccer was booted this weekend, so we didn't get that. We went to this little kids thing here in Auburn. That was pretty cool. The kids ran amok for about 6 hours and lost their minds. And then we went to my mom's. That was cool. Kids went fishing and stuff like that.
Okay.
Sweet.
Pretty. It seems like I didn't do a lot, but I'm exhausted. Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah. I think I didn't really do anything, but I was so tired yesterday at the end of the day. But no, nothing crazy. It's nice to have the extra day, I guess.
How about you, Chad? How'd you celebrate it over in Iceland?
Maybe Greenland.
Iceland is green and Greenland is full of ice. So
that is true.
Is that where Vikings are from?
Yeah, something like that. Slow.
I thought they're from Norway.
I don't know. I have no idea. You could have told me South Africa. I would have believed you.
Slovakia.
No clue.
I thought Slovakia too. Like I think it sounds like
definitely not. Slovakia landlocked. No boats.
Let's try to get back on.
I'm sorry. So I got to play hockey at this thing with for a veteran with Logan on Saturday. It was awful. I'm so bad at it. At one time I was a really, really good hockey player.
I wonder if we're all really good at a lot of things.
It's not anymore. I can still skate and I can still stick handle. I just can't do those things together anymore.
I got on a skateboard to try to show me how to skateboard this weekend, and it was like I'd never been on a skateboard before. And I used to be like, I was always terrible. Almost.
It was weird. Oddly enough, we played. It was like a 2-hour session. I stayed out there for like an hour and 20 minutes, and I didn't move a whole lot in the second half. I told everybody I was a really good winger in the defensive zone, and I was a really good defensive in the offensive zone, which means I didn't really clear the blue line in the middle much.
We used to call you Pylon.
Just take up space.
That's saying he has ice on his knees right now, still from that.
But then it's Logan's first weekend home, so we didn't do a whole lot really. Lindsay and I did a project around the house on Sunday, and then yesterday we went and did the duck bowling thing at a place called Pins over in Easton, which is awesome. It's really cool.
It's pretty fun.
Yeah, and what's neat about the one over there is they have the 16-bit thing, which is also free arcade. Like as long as you're buying drinks, you can use any arcade game as long as you press the start button. It's great.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was fun. We had a good time. What'd you do, Teddy?
Well, Memorial Day is typically a tough one for me, honestly, because I lost some friends over there. But honestly, so normally I keep myself busy with veterans activities, whether it be I've had to deliver a speech or organize my veterans group in the parade the last several years, and this year I made the decision I wasn't doing that, and I took some time for myself and some time for reflection, and I spent it at home with my family. And
I was gonna say that's got to be tough on one hand for you, just because I know you've done it for so long, but also kind of probably some type of relief on the other side.
Honest to God, yesterday I had, because as the chairman of the Chemung County Veterans Council, we pay for the parade. We have to pay. The council pays for the parade, so I had to take some checks down there in the morning to the bands that all participated and all that stuff. And then my friends own a floral company. They own they sell plants and everything. I don't know what that's called. And right at the beginning of the parade route, so. It's not a
florist, nursery, greenhouse,
something. Yeah. So I delivered the checks, and then I walked down to in front of their place, and I said, I'm going to sit here and literally smell the flowers and watch the Memorial Day parade for the first time in a very long time. And it was kind of peaceful. And
That's
then I came
cool.
home and did some honey-do lists and spent some time with the family.
Our parade got COVIDed.
You got COVIDed?
Yeah, we didn't have a parade.
We didn't have one last year, but this year we returned to action. So
I just real quick before we move on to who we have this week, I've been watching the hockey playoffs a ton, and it's like COVID is gone here, and in Canada, they just finally let 500 people into the Maple Leafs game last night, and they lost, by the way.
Yeah, they got smoked. That was a bad.
They did.
It's weird though. Like, the one thing, like, I'm probably gonna take some grief for this, but like, I just don't get. They have 16. Some of these stadiums have 16,000 fans in them. 18,000, whatever, thousands.
Yeah.
But the coaches are still like wearing their mask.
They wear a mask.
To talk to the players, they take them off, and then they put
yell at the ref. They take it off.
Right, and I'm like, God, come on. I don't know. Anyways, moving on.
Sorry, I just thought it was wild.
That all across the country and the globe. The differences are walking contradictions.
It's just like Chad said. Like in Canada, there's 500 guys at a hockey game, but if you go to the States, there's 20,000 in an arena.
Yeah.
It's just bizarre. Anyway.
Well, so today we have with us Mike LaMont. And Mike is the Director of Pipeline Integrity Services for TRC companies. Now, that word pipeline integrity has been kind of like a catchphrase on our show as of late. And we've talked about how we really didn't, that didn't exist for too long ago. But no. Mike's role is the Director of Pipeline Integrity for TRC. And he previously was the Vice President of Integrity Plus at Integrity Plus in Houston, Texas. Along with that, Mike also has the distinct honor of being a tremendous speaker. Most recently, he delivered the keynote speech.
Thank gosh you aren't talking about yourself.
I talked over your smart comment, so
sorry.
I didn't even hear it.
Speaks.
Tell you later.
Okay. So Mike delivered the keynote where he did a tremendous job, and it was a truly engaging speech. So
yeah, the other things too that I thought the interview was cool, and you guys will see it, but Mike talks a lot about like just being a person and like doing the right thing, and I thought that was cool because we haven't had that wrinkle in our show before. So
he also has the distinct privilege of being the first person that actually was like, "Hey, I've watched your show. If you ever need somebody,"
and we were like, "Absolutely,
yeah." So without further ado, Mr. Mike LaMont, welcome to Connections for Life. Hello, Mike, and welcome to Connections for Life. Or should I call you Chris?
You can call me Chris. People also call me Mark. So, and I go by either. Actually, my brother's name is Chris, so that kind of works out.
It wasn't that
Mark,
bad.
Chris, Mike, how you been?
Maybe we got the wrong one on, I guess.
Thanks, Ted.
Love you.
Hey, Mike. Thanks for taking the time to come on the show. Much appreciated. I know I saw some of the things that you've done with the what's it called now?
World Pipelines with the World Pipelines.
World Pipelines.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I couldn't think of the name. So with that being said, we'll start you with where we start everybody else. How did you get your start in the natural gas industry?
Yeah, so that's a great question. It's always interesting to hear how people got their start in the industry.
Well, then you better make it good.
Oh yeah. So basically, I'll take you back to about 1998-ish. I graduated with my master's degree. And interestingly enough, a lot of people don't know, I taught in grad school and was working on my thesis, and my funding ran out. So I couldn't teach anymore. I couldn't work on my thesis. And to pay the bills, I actually went and worked at the local zoo for about 6 months. And worked with the reptiles and amphibians, which means venomous snakes, crocodilians, and all those kinds of things. And then a buddy of mine called me up that worked at a plant, and he had graduated just a little bit before me and said, "Hey, I'm leaving this job. Do you want to come take it?" And so I went and interviewed, and I had a master's degree, and the plant manager put me in charge of all things regulatory, which was fascinating because I studied in environmental science as my master's. And here they put me in charge of all things regulatory. And I had people that were older than me, way more experienced than me working for me. And here's, I was that college boy right out of school, right? So it was a very humbling experience.
Sure.
So, and then, learning a lot of things on the job, as we all do. And from there, I went to a company called Lufkin Industries, who manufactures oil pumping units, does oil field services. And that was really my start in the business to kind of get my arms around it. And then from there, I went into a small consulting firm that had just started a pipeline group, and there you have it. But I'll never forget, though, going to conferences and industry events at my age then. I was like, wow, I'm like the youngest one here.
Yeah.
I mean, there were not many people our age that were being brought into the industry, right?
Yeah.
So it was definitely a fascinating journey.
What's kind of crazy about you saying that is I think that there still isn't that many people our age collectively in the industry, really. That's part of one of the things we talk about, really, right? I mean,
well, they went through a number of years where they just didn't hire people in, right? And it was very much a fraternity kind of environment, and everyone knew each other very well. And then I'd say in the past 10 years or so, the industry's done a much better job. They kind of realized, whoa, all these people are going to retire and we're going to have no one to do the work, right?
There is like that weird gap. I mean, there is a gap from like our generation.
We talk about it a lot.
There's not a lot of people that are.
Oh, yeah.
There's not a lot of people that are still in their 20s, like all of us, right?
right. Yeah. Like us. Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Mike's been in the industry for 30 years. He's only 35.
Yeah, that's right. I'm only 35. Absolutely.
So Mike, I wanted you to touch on what TRC does in general and kind of what you do there. I know we've talked to CM in the past, who also worked for TRC, and he gave us the rundown, but we kind of like to do that with every guest too, just to.
So what and I did listen to when CM was on the show, and he is a great interview. I mean, just a great guy to talk to. Awesome. So what TRC does is we are a full service engineering consulting firm, which means everything, environmental, infrastructure, all those things. Now, what my team does is we focus on both hazardous liquids and natural gas pipelines, right? All things regulatory compliance. We have a ton of expertise there. Engineering, analysis, corrosion control, you name it, we've got it.
It's pretty neat.
And you're
and so go ahead.
No, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Yeah, I would say my day-to-day is certainly and one of the things that's great about having such a wonderful team is it's my responsibility to get out of their way and let them do their thing and not mess it up. So I try to do that, right? Every Monday morning we kind of do a check-in, and then I try to stay out of everyone's way for the rest of the week. And then when I'm staying out of their way, things that I'm doing consulting myself for clients, regulatory consulting, integrity consulting, those kinds of things.
Yeah, and so I know that you're heavily involved, obviously, with the integrity management. That, like, we've talked about it on the show in the past, like that wasn't even a thing 20 years ago. You know, that was like, that's like new. It's kind of like forensic science almost, right? Like it's just new. Can you give us a little history about why it kind of came about, and obviously why it's so important today?
And I think what it is might help too.
Yeah.
Just because for our viewers that really don't.
And for us, because we have no idea.
Yeah, for our viewers or me. Yeah.
Well, let's try to unpackage that, because that's a lot, right? So how we got integrity management. Well, we're in a very reactionary society. And when bad things happen, people get on the news and go, there ought to be a law. How did this happen? And folks in Congress that want to get elected, reelected, whatever, they're going to go, you know what, we ought to have a law. How could this happen? And if you go back to about 1999, the Olympic pipeline accident that happened in Bellingham, Washington, there were 3 fatalities. And of course, it was a gasoline release, and it was a horrible story, sadly, tragic. That was really the mechanism, the catalyst, if you will, for what we see today as the integrity management rules. Now, there's been other pipeline incidents, accidents that have really given that effort momentum. But essentially what IM does is it says, and it's brilliant when you think about it, they recognize that not every pipeline segment in the country is created equal, okay? And they said, you know what, a CO2 service pipeline in the middle of nowhere, New Mexico, is not the same as a gasoline pipeline that's in an environmentally sensitive area on the West Coast. Okay, and those two things are very different. And the regulations allow pipeline operators to go, you know what, we are going to put our time, money, energy, and resources into the higher risk assets first, as they should, versus equally spending money across the board, because what happens when you equally spend money is you don't put as much time, energy, money into the higher risk pipelines as you do, as you would with IM. So IM is what I think is a brilliant concept. It's brilliant in that, hey, let's figure out what our highest risks are. Operators, we know what our highest risks are, and let's spend our money, time, and energy accordingly.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's really cool.
Yeah, I actually never really thought about that, but it does make a ton of sense. I mean, a pipeline that's in the, in the plains of the Midwest that isn't near any homes or anything like that is clearly less critical than,
Right.
Yeah. Never
Yeah.
thought of that.
Yeah, no, it's brilliant. As opposed to the traditional pipeline safety rule that is very prescriptive, that says, oh, you're going to go out and do this survey annually, or you're going to go check on these valves every 6 months. This allows operators to develop their own processes. It allows them to go identify what their true risks are, what their highest risks are, and then do what they need to do to manage those risks down. Now, there were some people that'll tell you, well, integrity management hasn't been successful, it hasn't been effective. And I challenge that, because it's a process and a journey, right? It's not something that you're going to flip a switch and you're going to see results right away.
Sure.
The other thing about that is that I would say that it's different in that it's hard to inspect for PHMSA, state agencies, because operators have the freedoms to develop their own processes, so long as they meet some specified mandatory elements that are in the code. It's difficult for inspectors to go in and deem sufficiency of IM programs. Now, because of that, there's not a ton of active enforcement. And I'll tell you what, it takes a village, and it takes all of us together. We have to have effective regulators pushing us and keeping that bar high. We just do, because it's human nature. I mean, if there's not anybody out there writing speeding tickets, I'm gonna speed.
Right.
I just am, right? So it's really truly a symbiotic relationship, in that we need regulators to push the industry, and the industry needs to continue to use that momentum and get better.
That's
That's a good point.
it's interesting, because that's one of the things you talked about. I know in your World Pipeline talk that you did, the keynote there. I think you hit on that, either in that or the questions and answers. And I know that talk, it really wasn't a lot about the processes and things like that, but more about the people. And I think that's one of your main focuses on not just the people, but the thought process behind finding and keeping and getting the people to do the right thing for the integrity management program. Am I correct?
Right. Oh, absolutely, Chad. And I think that's one of the things, and if you haven't listened to the World Pipelines keynote, we can get you the link.
We'll put that on the bottom of
but here's the deal. You can have the best technical people in the world. You can have the most advanced in terms of, of technologies, in terms of inspection technologies, assessment technologies, all of these things. You can spend all your money on all these digital type, okay, it's going to make our lives easier. And you can still have a very ineffective program. And people go, why are we struggling? And I say, well, it's simply, you don't have the right leadership, right? You gotta inspire people. I mean, you have to. And our technical people, typically that's just outside of their wheelhouse. It's not something that they're trained in. And one of my pet peeves is, you take a brilliant engineer that's 35 years experience and highly successful as an individual contributor, and all of a sudden you take that person and put them over 40 people, 30 people.
They're not equipped for it.
They're not ready for it. And you don't give them any training, and you go, here you go, you're a manager because you're good technically.
Well, I've always said that about salespeople, because that's what we do. Just because you're a good salesperson doesn't mean you're going to be a good sales manager. And I think the assumption is, well, you know how to sell, so you should be able to manage.
I'm good at managing things, not people. Typically, that's just me. I don't even know if I'm good at things. That's right there.
You-
Barely managed putting my pants on.
I don't
Yeah,
even know if
but-
you have them on. We can't see you.
Yeah. Well,
I don't want to take.
so
We gotta
yeah,
get right back on track, guys.
yeah.
All right.
All right. So I wanted to say one comment I had there where you were talking about if there wasn't regulatory commission and stuff like that. And I say this all the time to either kids or colleagues, depending on the situation. But often if there's no consequences for doing your homework, no one's going to do your homework. You know what I mean? Like you said,
Right.
Right.
the speeding aspect and everything. But let me ask, is it difficult? This is a sidebar question, and I'm jumping in here without
That's
Oh, boy,
okay.
here we
Go for
go.
it.
Yeah, go for it.
But
Oh, boy.
it's got to be difficult to try to manage those expectations to so many different regulatory commissions in certain aspects, right?
Yeah.
Because because you
Or
have
even upper management.
such
I
a
have
wide
to
gambit that you have
Good
to
angle.
cover
Yeah.
for integrity management. There's so many different regulatory commissions and that kind of stuff for that. That's got to be just a nightmare.
Oh yeah, it really is, Ted. That's a great point. And let me share a story with you. When I was at Lufkin Industries many years ago, I used to have vendors come in and sell to me, right? And one day a salesperson came in and said, Mike, you should really go into sales. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I've never sold anything. I don't have any sales background at all. And he said, well, listen, your job is 100% sales, really. And I'm like, okay, what? And he said, think about it. It's your job to sell your company to regulators when they come in. It's your job to sell the importance of regulatory compliance up the chain, right? And that's really important because, when you start to go, hey, I need to spend money because of a regulatory program, integrity, whatever, the first question is going to be, well, why? Why do we have to do this, right?
And what do we
And
get
so you
back?
got to you absolutely have to be an effective communicator, right? And then you got to go sell it to the people that are in the field and the plants and those kinds of things. And because if you have a great program but you don't have buy-in from the people that are out there implementing it, the program's going to fail every
They'll
time,
die.
right?
Yep.
So I'm like, oh yeah, that does make a lot of sense. And so what I would say, and this has been a failure of our industry, is that we don't hire and place effective communicators into these leadership roles. And that's really critical.
I think one of the things that hit me the most that you said in your world pipeline thing was essentially that you should be hiring their attitude. You can teach them their experience, but that personality side of it is, I thought that was interesting, just a different way that people look at it. A lot of people hire experts to be an expert at that product, and it happens in sales. But you can, a salesman, which is pretty much everybody all day long, including my kids, including everybody, every conversation we have is a sale, really.
Right.
So it's interesting. I just thought that was a good angle.
I used to work with a guy that would always say, you give me the attitude and I'll give you the altitude. Like that was his thing, and that was, Steve Belt, you know him, Chad. He always used to say that. And unfortunately he's passed on, but it was just always something that stuck with me. But I think there's a lot to take away from that, just like you said.
Well, and it's so important, right? Because if you're, and today we are just bombarded with negativity. Like if you go look at the news, you're going to get negative, and you're going to get, and you shouldn't. Yeah. And it's very, very, very unhealthy for us all, I think. But you're going to get negativity. You're going to get, doom and gloom. This person's horrible. That group's horrible.
Right.
And it's all incredibly negative. And what we should be doing instead, and even politicians, they're it's that group's fault. It's this person. They're how horrible. We should be elevating each other and going, you know what? That's a great point. I don't see it like that, but I haven't, but that's a great point. And Chad, I think you're a great person. Thank you for bringing that to, and that's where
you don't have to make stuff up, Mike. It's okay.
Yeah, it's all right.
I know it's just a role playing thing.
But
yeah, that's right.
But I think that's a respect thing. People don't respect people anymore.
That's gone away.
Beliefs. I don't, and well, that kind of brings me to the next question. There's a lot of difficulties that we face in this industry, especially with fossil fuels and things like that, pipelines. What do you think the industry is? What does it look like, and where should we go from here?
Yeah, no, and that's an excellent question. here's what I think. I think we are at a crossroads. Okay. And we can choose to bury our heads in the sand and go, you know what, we're going to keep doing what we've always done. Or we're going to take a look at where we can take a look at ourselves and go, where do we need to improve? Because the industry can improve and it has to improve. And it can't be just, nice little things that they post on LinkedIn about how we want to be, there's got to be action, right? And so I think, again, it all comes down to leadership. And we have to have the right leaders in these industry roles to push us and to go, what was good enough yesterday is no longer okay. Right? Because the margin for error in the pipeline industry right now is zero. I mean, it's zero because you have a failure and it's a PR nightmare. You're going to have all sorts of you're going to be on social media, politicians will be after you, everything, right? Because it's so easy to criticize, and this is the thing that kind of gets me is after it's sad. The sad reality is people actively wait for bad things to happen. So they hope bad, so they can jump on them and go, see, you shouldn't have done that. You shouldn't have, that's sad. It's definitely a sad commentary as to where people's heads are right now, but it really is. And
you get it right 99.999% of the time, and it's that 0.001 mistake that you're just absolutely lynched for.
But
they're called accidents for a reason, right?
The old adage of 1,000 attaboys are wiped out with 1 shoe.
Yeah.
It's the same thing Joe always says. It's the same thing Joe always says that managing the exceptions rather than the rule. It's people seem to, you could do a thing 5,000 times the same way over and over again, and the 5,001st time something bad happens and people cancel doing any of it.
Well, and unfortunately that does not sell in the media right now. They got to get people to click on stories, and so the way that they do that is they go, look how bad this industry is, look how bad certain person is or people are. And that's just, and so here's my message to everybody. Stop worrying about what everyone else is doing, okay? Because we all can improve. I mean, we all can improve. And that's really what the keynote for World Pipelines was about, is stop obsessing about what what everyone else, says, does, what they tweet. Who cares?
Everybody's always offended for everybody else.
Everyone's always offended. And that's kind of the easy way out, I think, is, somebody says, Mike, I disagree with you. Well, I'm going to be offended, right? Well, that takes zero intellect, right? Now, if Chad, if you hey, you got a counterpoint, and I go, I'm offended, and I turn you off, right? Click.
Right.
That takes zero intellect, but it takes intellect, and it takes me being humble enough to go, you know what, maybe I don't know everything, right?
That's a very big problem for people. Honestly, it's tough, and you're right, because as soon as you turn that I'm offended, the conversation ends. Any collaboration, any type of reaching across the aisle ends at that point, because a wall goes up. That's a good point, Mike. I like that a lot. I wish we could talk about that a little bit more sometime.
I'm happy to come back and talk about it anytime.
I think I just think it's an interesting point, and I think I really appreciate the fact that you're kind of real about that, because I think a lot of people tap dance around what we all think is in what we're seeing. I mean, I know me personally, I don't even have television anymore. I can't take it.
Good for you.
I just couldn't. There was just too much. I didn't know what was right from wrong and what I was believing, and then it turns into chaotic.
Now you just believe Twitter.
Yeah, now I just believe whatever Chad tells me.
We're French model. I read it on
yeah, exactly. No, I just want to say thanks, Mike. I unfortunately didn't get a chance to chat with you much when we did the pre-call, because I was traveling. So I don't know. I think there's a lot of good stuff to unpack there, and I think there's a lot more.
And work on yourself, right? Read, learn new things, get exercise, and disconnect from the media and all that stuff, because it ultimately is destructive. It really is. So work on yourself.
Be self-aware. I think that's a big thing that a lot of people, be reflective, take time to realize where you could have been better. I try to do that. I'm not great at it, but I try, and especially since I've had children, I think I've tend to be more reflective because, I don't want to damage them any more than I'm already going to. Trying to limit the collateral damage on them. Yeah. So.
Oh, that's great. Well, I don't know, Chad, do you want to say anything before we close?
No,
out?
other than thank you, Mike. I really enjoyed the discussions. I enjoyed your world pipelines. We'll put the link in there. That was awesome. And maybe we'll have you back here soon.
Hey, I'd love to come back anytime.
About personalities, good. To talk about personality.
TRC roundtable with a bunch of TRC folks.
We should. You get CM and I back, and.
Well, I was thinking about this. We're in a couple of weeks, and this may be something to do. We have a LinkedIn Live thing that we just started. When we're doing one with CM, maybe bring in and have it just change the topics a little bit and do something.
If you could come in and yell at CM the whole time.
Hey, there you go.
Just be completely judgmental and yell at him.
For the record, CM doesn't have a boss, right? He doesn't need managed, right? So there you go. Although we did make him get enough to know. We did make him get a smartphone. So
he
we talked about that actually for a while.
Yeah.
That was funny.
What's weird is when he takes his iPhone out and goes, it doesn't flip anymore.
He's something else. I didn't know CM at all prior to doing the Corrosion Expo, and he's just awesome. Turned into one of my favorite people to chat with.
So CM, let me just say, is a treasure to the corrosion industry. He really is. He's a wonderful guy. He is a treasure. And if you don't know CM, boy, take the time to chat with him when you see him hopefully we're out and about soon.
Yes.
Yeah.
Don't worry, we're going to delete all this so CM doesn't see it.
Once it goes on the website and YouTube and LinkedIn, we'll totally delete it afterwards.
Right. It'll be gone. It'll be like
never happened.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, Mike. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
I look forward to talking to you again in the future. Mike, thank you so much for joining us on the show there, and again providing such an informative but down to earth interview. We truly appreciate it.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to talk to Mike, especially like Joe said before we went into the interview, just about people and kind of doing the right things and being a good person and just trying to be an easy person to work with. And just a lot of those things that he talks about are human traits. They're not necessarily job skills. So I thought it was really interesting.
Definitely. I think I'd like to figure out how we can get Mike on the show or do some other stuff with him, because I think he's got a lot of cool ideas and stuff in his head, talking to him afterwards. So Mike, thanks for coming on. We really appreciate you reaching out. It was awesome to get to know you. See you later, Chad.
Bye, Chad. Yeah. He's going.
Now, I'm sorry. The first week of people being back in my house, they just come in the house and they don't realize that people actually like work here anymore. And they just come in and they're,
and how they 30 minutes a week you work.
It's nice. Thanks.
No argument.
Should have left. It would have been easier if I left, wouldn't it?
Yeah, you should just turn your camera off, walk away.
Just go to your car and do what I do. Just go out to the car.
Out to the car in the garage. I just wanted to drop in. I know we've been trying to set up the LinkedIn Live every 2 weeks or so to do these things, and we have one coming up. We had to do it on Monday next week just with some other scheduling conflicts, but we're going to have CM Nelson also from TRC on to talk about everything rectifiers. Not exactly sure what that talk entails, but that's kind of the fun of it for us, is for us to learn as we go as well. Go ahead, Joe. I knew you were going to say
CM, so
because we don't know about rectifiers.
True.
We're going to be learning as we go here. So yeah.
It's so excited to do that, though. Excited to keep bringing more knowledge and to us first of all, but then at the same time to the rest of the industry. That's the whole purpose and point.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody's watching, but I'm learning every week. So
I learn stuff every time.
How's that chapstick there, Teddy?
That's good. I say like this every week, like. Really?
What do we got? We got a gas utility update. We got any updates?
Yeah, so I was reading gas utility because I subscribe to it, and it's
Stop. You read what? Gas utility what?
It's the gas. I don't know if it's weekly or daily. It's just called Gas Utility. I
read Gas Utility. I was curious.
GasUtility.com. So I subscribe to gasutility.com, and they
Oh, I'm gonna sign up. Why didn't you ever tell me about that?
because I'm selfish and you guys already, and I'm trying to catch up.
And also very honest. Good job.
You probably
No,
told-
I don't know. When I registered for the UCT show, it actually came with a free subscription to it. And I've been getting them for the last several weeks. And that's where I'm coming up with this litany of information as if I.
The first time. There's no, it's
There was
barely a
one
lit.
before that. One other.
Two times.
I didn't.
So again,
Time.
I love you, but I
I'm
hate
gonna
you.
go again.
Come on, let's get the update out on the gas utility.
So this one I thought was really cool. It says, so for U.S. natural gas generation in 2021 is seeing its first year-over-year decline since 2017.
Why is that?
So what it's saying it's attributed to is essentially that the increase of generation in renewables, all right, and the increased price associated with natural gas generation, natural gas fired generation. And I found this to be really intriguing because we've seen so many things to the contrary of it, where it's like, you know, the cost of natural gas generation has been stagnant forever or got better.
This may sound crazy, but hear me out. Do you think, and I don't know this, do you think that maybe it's just been warmer? So people have used less. I mean, was this winter warmer?
But here's my thing in the whole conversation. I'm stuck on whether we're talking about generation or usage.
So it says in the first 4 months of 2021, natural gas fired generation in the lower 48 states averaged 3,394 gigawatt hours per day.
So it's natural gas consumption for electricity.
A
Right.
nearly 7% decrease from the same period in 2020. The decline in natural gas generation during the first 4 months of this year is a result of higher natural gas prices and increased competition from renewables. And it is the first year-over-year decline since 2017. So
I'd like to dig into that a little bit more because I feel like there's a lot more meat into that conversation.
a little more meat on the bone on that one.
Yeah, I'm not going to get into it right now because I don't have any facts, but that sounds like somebody wrote an article to.
Well, the other tidbit I pulled out of it, like that word tidbit,
No.
U.S. natural gas prices have risen since April 2020 because of lower natural gas production and higher winter heating demand compared with the previous winter heating season that ran from October 2020 to March 2021. So.
Yeah, I think we need to get somebody that knows what they're talking about on because, like, we don't.
We don't, yeah. So
I feel like that there's a lot of
Rhetoric.
yeah, a little bit
Up
of that.
behind
narratives being pushed through media.
Well, I just feel like they're really big sentences that really are. You probably need about 3 pages worth of material to actually say what's happening in the 2 sentences.
And
Yeah, the article is all of 4 paragraphs, so you know that's why I was willing.
They didn't even do their research that great.
I don't know. I'll look around a little bit. I'd like to.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So I got another one too, and this one I thought was just you know really cool. So PG&E, they're selling their San Francisco headquarters complex for like $800 million. But what they're doing with the profit of it, right, is they're going to distribute approximately $390 million to $420 million to customers, resulting from the gain of the sale over a 5-year period to offset future customer rates.
Couple of questions.
What?
Couple of questions.
I won't have the answer.
Who are they selling it to?
It says they are selling headquarters to Delaware, to Heinz Atlantis US LP, a Delaware limited partnership.
I wonder if this has anything to do with that moratorium on putting in new gas services in San Francisco.
Well, part of they said that where this place is located in the article, it says where they're moving to is basically Oakland, and it's going to be so much cheaper for them to operate out of there that they can pass along these savings to the customers.
I have a question about that too. What does it break down like what the savings per customer will be over the course of 5 years? Is it like a nickel?
No,
I was just that's what I was trying. I was trying to figure out how many customers they have. Overall, they have 4.4 million customers, gas customers.
Yeah, but that's overall. Is it just in the area, or is it? I mean, because he said that the customers in the area, is it all of their service territory, or just proper?
Again,
You can make stuff up, Ted.
Ted, Your articles beg more questions, so you have a little bit of research and homework to do.
You know what? I wish I knew enough about what we do for a living that I could pepper you with questions every time you give me
I
something.
wish I knew what I just don't know the
I
answer.
wish we could answer the questions.
You guys know how inquisitive I am, so of course I'm going to ask questions
I'm
about.
just going to forward you the article and give you my login. Go
What
to
else?
town, Joe.
Subscription, gas utilities subscription weekly
Gas utility.
digest.
Gasutility.com.
Please stop messing with those.
I tried to get it to go away. I'm sorry. And I broke it. I hit the wrong thing.
So that's what I had. Do you guys have anything? What about our favorite segment of the show, Chad?
Gas back.
Gotta get a new picture.
Nah,
My beard's not that much longer than it was there. You guys are giving me a hard time about my length of my
I didn't give you a hard time. Somebody on the South Jersey call gave you a hard time about your beard.
George Tenenbaum. George, if you're watching the show, thank you very much for that. So I got a couple of things. One is like a retro throwback because I already asked you guys this question before, so I want to know
12.
the answer.
C.
If you please stop saying 12. The joke's dead. Like it's not good anymore. Pick another number. At least say 17. Something. Please.
12C.
All right. Because every time you say it, it is potentially applicable to the answer of the question that I asked, which drives me nuts.
He always picks it.
All right, so I asked you guys this before, I'm going to ask it again. Liquefied natural gas is natural gas that has been super cooled to liquid state at blank degrees Fahrenheit. At blank degrees Fahrenheit for shipping and storage. What is that blank degrees? What is it cooled to put it in liquid state?
498, negative 498 degrees Fahrenheit.
To put it to a liquid state.
I wanted to say 12, but I wasn't allowed. I typed it in the chat.
We're both wrong.
36.
Huh?
36.
All right, I'm going to give you guys, and now I'll give you some options. Negative 32, 0, negative 100, or negative 260.
Negative 32.
I say negative 260. The colder. I assume it has to be the coldest it can be.
Negative 260. And I did ask you guys this back on like episode 42. So good retention skills.
12.
Anyways, that really wasn't my fact. That's what I threw up on LinkedIn this morning. So if anybody's watching, you know the answer. But I actually found another one that I thought was really neat. So let me check this one out for you guys.
C.
This isn't going to be what am I trying to say? Engaging.
12.
No, the one where I ask you guys questions. Yeah. Interactive.
Oh,
So I thought this was interesting. So it costs about the same to construct an oil and gas well as it does to erect a wind turbine. Thought that was cool. But this is what I thought was really more interesting. The turbine generates the equivalent of 1 barrel of oil per hour versus 10 barrels per hour of oil produced by the oil gas well. So it's a tenth. That wasn't really interesting. This was. It costs less than 50 cents to store the energy produced by an oil and gas well compared to $200 worth of batteries to contain the same amount of energy in one barrel of oil. So
that's interesting.
200 for battery storage cost. Weird, right? Like,
yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, I don't know.
I've actually had the privilege of building wind turbines, and I was the foreman of the grounding crew for a project up in Cohocton, New York, or not Cohocton, Howard, New York. And it was, it's a really, really cool thing, but like, it's insane to how the process goes. And I mean, the duration of us to build these things was 6 months probably to get the entire wind farm done. And it was utterly so expensive. Like,
I've been down to the facility that makes the fan blades.
Oh yeah. In Ithaca.
No, it's over by Hornell, I believe, like somewhere over there. Or they store them. I don't know, whatever. I've seen them. Anyways, there's like hundreds of them outside. Like I don't think people realize how big those things are. You know, they look huge when you're in the car driving by, but like when you're actually up next
they are massive.
Yeah.
Well, here's the other thing that's a side note from another previous career choice of mine.
What is this, throwback Teddy time?
Well, no,
maybe that should be a corner every week.
Throwback Teddy.
So Stork, Stork Turbine is one of the manufacturers and producers of these wind turbine blades, right? So you would think that they're just big blades that go in the air. They are machined to such microscopic tolerances, it's unbelievable. Like you're talking about like jet engine tolerances,
I
and
assume they have to be just to be that efficient, right? I mean,
well, the efficiency is one aspect of it, but the safety is the big aspect of it because you're talking about the amount of balance, the balance of these things spinning. And I just found it like, like really cool knowledge.
Yeah, remember when I was driving when you lived down in Jim Thorpe, when I was driving down and there was one on fire on top of the hill. Remember that? And I called like, dude, there's a wind turbine or a windmill on fire. He's like, no, there's not. I'm like, I'm pretty sure there's black piling off of this thing. Anyways, I got one more really interesting one, and then we'll go. I asked Chad this the other day, but Teddy, I don't know, he probably won't remember, so it doesn't matter.
I don't remember.
How much do you guys think one electric car battery weighs?
One electric car battery weighs. I'm gonna go with 79 pounds.
1,300 pounds.
It's 1,120 pounds.
I was close. I guess 1,500. I think the first time.
Crazy. You know what?
It's the whole bottom of the car, though. It's that. Am I right? I mean, in a
Yeah.
Tesla, it's the whole body of the
When I
bottom.
saw that, I was like,
There was a sweet Tesla I saw in the parade, to change subjects completely, that had awesome doors that opened up like the DeLorean.
Or the Super.
Yeah, like the DeLorean.
They called Gullwing. That's what they were called.
They were awesome.
So, anyways, fabricating one electric vehicle battery requires digging up, moving, and processing 250 tons of earth on the planet.
Wow, 250
Let
tons.
alone how many of the
That's
rare minerals that it takes to make it, right?
Yeah, I think that's all part of the process, but I don't know. It's crazy. Anyways, people talk about this stuff forever. No one's even paying it. The people turned off after Mike. They were like, he was interesting. These guys are terrible.
These guys, listen, you're probably right.
I'm not probably right. I'm 100. If anybody's still watching, I'll give you $1 if you respond to this.
Doug,
Can I have $1 just for being
Doug
so
Stafford's
we're not
definitely
hanging up?
on.
No, I won't, because like 300,000 people will the one time I say that, and then I'll be.
Can I have $1 if I leave?
give you 10 if you leave?
All right, so hey guys, we really appreciate you guys tuning in, watching the show. Remember to continue to click like, subscribe, follow, share, comment, all the great things that you never do, but we love you for anyway. So.
Hi, Doug.
Till next time, thanks guys, we love you.
You guys.